Hello everyone, Nadia, Steven, Stratus. Nice to see you. I'm wondering if I recognize your name. I don't think I do. Stratus, I like the name. Hey Mats. Jack, good to have you here as well. How are you, Mats? I haven't seen you for a while, right? You weren't here last time. And I don't think the time before that either. I hope everyone's having a good week and that you're... just see if I can get this closer. That you're enjoying yourself at least in Sweden we have spring today, and that's I said this before, one of the things I appreciate so much about Sweden is that we have seasons. Unfortunately the winter isn't so clear where I live, but we have the spring and like this, I think beginning of in 1 or 2 weeks it's going to be, we call it marzipan green, like all the trees just blossom and it's just so beautiful, and all the cherry trees and everything. It's a beautiful time of the year, which is very nice because when I lived in Sri Lanka or Asia in general, you just don't have seasons that way. You have rainy season or just warm season without the rain, kind of, which is different. So I hope wherever you are that you're having a good time. I usually have lots of things on my mind, or lots of topics like, oh, this would be a good topic, and today I don't really know. Life, it's fun. Yeah, it is, right? Life, it's I think it's really the difference. I always say this, then when you see, if you don't have contrast, it's difficult to see the beauty of things. There is beauty, it's just that it's easier when you have contrast, because if you see the same thing the whole time, then you're just used to it and you learn exactly how to distort towards it, how to relate to it. So you don't have to, every time you go into a room, say for instance your bedroom, every time you go into your bedroom you don't see those images, photos hanging on the walls, you don't see how the bed is and like everything around you, you don't actually look because you're so used to going to that place that every time you go in it's like, yeah, you stop looking. But when you have something different, then all of a sudden you wake up and you become aware, and you do exactly what we're trying to do here. You're trying to see things as they are. You look and imagine you go to a hotel room. You go into a hotel room and then you see all the paintings on the walls. You see the floor, the carpet, you see the bed, you see those little pictures and the frames and the minibar, and then you see the stains, if there's any stains. You just notice everything because it's a new place. So one of the things that we're trying to do, especially with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, when we're trying to really use our senses, is that we're trying to see reality as we see it, as when we're on vacation. Because this is very much how children see the world. They see it as if everything is vacation. They go to sandbox, everything is new and everything is fun, and then they go and do something else and everything is new and everything is fun. Oh, let's see. Mats is saying, I'm pretty good, thanks for asking. Took time off from work and did random stuff here and there. I went to Foro class yesterday. It's similar to salsa. It was amazing. Oh, Foro. I don't think I've ever heard of that. That sounds fun though. And good you're out dancing. Stratus. Hi Martin. I've watched your channel for about 5 months, but my first live. I work Monday and off on Thursday, mid-afternoon to late. Oh, okay. I'm very happy that you're here. It's kind of like we have another member here, Sue. She said she watched all of the videos and they're like, okay, he's okay. So now then she joined the live stream since she's a regular here as well. It's nice to have you here. Mats also had a lot of dates and I am now officially done with online dating. I just live my life, and if I happen to meet someone, fine. If not, also fine. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, like I said, I'm happy that I never had to do online dating. That's I'm sure you can meet people, but it just seems really awkward to me. Jack, there are galaxies that probably don't have any life at all, so our little Milky Way should be cherished by any living thing. I had that, I don't know if I told you, but I'm really into astronomy. Not so much now, but when I was younger, well, just a few years ago, I did a lot of astrophotography also. And there's just something about, I always loved standing out and watching the stars. And you know, when you look up at the night sky and you see a star, like, oh, that's a star. And then if you see a galaxy, there's one called the Andromeda Galaxy, which is our closest neighbor. It's, I think, 2.2 million light years away. So the light you see is 2.2 million years old. And if you're here in Sweden, we have really good night sky. Obviously, depending on where in Sweden you are, but where we live, it's pretty good. We have like Bortle 4, I think, which is a scale on how light polluted the area is. And if you go just like further into the country, it's even darker. And you can see the Milky Way, and you can see the Andromeda Galaxy, and it's just this patch of, it's huge. I think if you look at it, it would be the size of, I don't remember, I think it's like 5 moons or something like that. Imagine you put 5 full moons next to each other, or 4, or like, it's huge. I don't remember exactly. It's really, really big, and it's just like this milky patch. And you look at that and you're like, oh, that's hundreds of billions of stars. And then you think about, like, we are here, sitting here talking, and someone at the Andromeda Galaxy is looking at us, and they see the Milky Way, and they see hundreds of billions of stars. And around one of those hundreds of billions of stars, there's a little planet. And on this huge planet, there's these little tiny things that run around on 2 legs and have 2 arms, and they have these things that can talk to each other where they're not in the same room. And those people think they're really, really important. Everything they do is it's so important that it happens a certain way. And if someone looks at them in the wrong direction or says the wrong thing, they get very upset. And then the person sitting on the Andromeda Galaxy is looking over at us and think like, wow, that's really amazing, because I also think I'm really important. But obviously what they do over there in the Milky Way, I don't give a crap about that. But for me, I am very important. So it's always given me such a nice perspective. I talked about that in my last video about dying, that this feeling of, hey, wait a minute, I'm insignificant. Like, really, it's this feeling of I am so important. And you can't deny that. That causes a lot of issues with like non-duality, where you try to kind of pretend you don't have that and like come up with excuses for it. But actually there is a very real sense of centered point that is me. And when you look at the stars, and when you look at something like the Andromeda Galaxy, it just, for most people, especially if you look at it for real, but even when you look at images, if you bring up an image of the Andromeda Galaxy, or any of the like just galaxies in general, and you see like this halo and like all the stars, and you think about how incredibly insignificant we are, how completely, on the grand scale of things, whatever happens on planet Earth is just, it's so insignificant, it's insane. I really, so I always loved looking at this. Why did I start talking about this? Oh, Jack said something about Milky Way. Jack, I blame it on you. But yeah, so I always loved watching the night sky. It always made me calm, and it's a nice change of perspective when you see things that way. It's the same as when you think about dying, because when you think about dying, then all of a sudden, oh, this thing that seemed so important just doesn't really matter because you're dead. And like that person you were so angry with, they're gonna die also. Like all of these things we're so upset with. And that doesn't mean just like don't care about anything, but it just means that don't ruin your life because of things that are happening around you. And currently I have so much crap going on in my life, things happening that are just, I don't know if I've ever had this much stuff going wrong in my life at the same time. It's crazy. But the nice thing about it is that doesn't mean that I have to ruin my experience of like sitting here. I could be worrying about all those things and thinking about that, and how is that going to work out, and how can they do this, and like things that are completely beyond my control. But I mean, it's normal and natural to do that. We shouldn't push that down and pretend it's not. But we can look at it and see that it's me creating that pressure. Because if I would be looking at me from the Andromeda Galaxy, then my problems here about what's happening with the taxes and the thing that I didn't realize, and like, oh my goodness, it's so much more than we thought. Like, well, so what? Like, when they see us as 2.2 million years from now, I think it's 2.2 or 1.8, something like that, then we'll be dead, like long gone. I mean, probably all human civilization will be completely wiped out. So then it doesn't really matter. And it gives you perspective, and then it's easier to let go of these things and see that this knot of I really is quite a like counterproductive thing to do when it comes to feeling good. Mats reminds me of Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot speech. Oh, yeah, I haven't heard that in ages. It's if you don't know what the pale blue dot is, there's an image. I think it was it Voyager, Mats? I think it's Voyager that when it went out of the solar system, turned its camera back to look at the Earth, and it was so far away that the only thing they could see of Earth was just a tiny, tiny pale blue dot, and that pale blue dot in the space of everything gives you a different perspective, because we feel like everything is so important and it's so real, and it really is. Getting this non-centric perspective is much more like, and I say this, but I do have parentheses. I mean, it's more like having the perspective of the universe, but that doesn't mean you feel like the universe. It just means that you widen and you let go, because you don't feel like anything. It doesn't feel like that you are the universe, which is one of the, I think the main mistakes people do is that they need to identify with something. So instead of identifying with this little thing, now identify with that big thing. But no self, or actually letting go of the sensation of having a sense of self, means all of it. And that's a kind of scary thing to do, because I can make excuses. Well, it doesn't matter what happens to me because I only care about the universe. But that means you still have something you're distorting towards, even though it seems like the universe is indestructible and infinite and everything. Yeah, Voyager 1, yeah, I thought so. It's a beautiful photo. It really is. And I've always loved astronomy and going out and photographing. You see much more when you do astrophotography, but also just looking at it. I have a big telescope. And then when you sit and you look at it, and you see, when you look at a galaxy, you don't actually see like the way it is in the photos. You just see a hazy little smeared out thing in the sky, and you can, if you look straight at it, you don't see much. But if you look on the side, you see much more, because there's, in Swedish we call them stavar och tappar. There's two different kinds of receptors on the retina. So in the middle, where you see color, they are not so light sensitive, but they see everything in color. But if you look on the side, where your peripheral vision, you see in black and white, or there's like some color receptors, but much fewer than in the middle. But they're much better at seeing low light things. So if you want to see something that's really dim, you should not look at it, you should look on the side. So you have to kind of learn how to use your eyes to see the galaxy, or the nebula, or the supernova that's exploded, creating a ring. And it's really, it's not just, oh, you look at it, oh, it's done. No, you have to spend time, and you look at it and you start seeing structure, and then you let the eye get more used to what you're seeing, and then you try different lenses, and you zoom in a little bit, and then you zoom out, and you see, can I see any kind of structure? And it's incredibly soothing, and especially sitting out and you're freezing, and you kind of need a telescope that follows it. But it's and if you have someone with you, it's a very nice, soothing experience. It always made me calm. Yeah, Andromeda does look awesome. John Doe, are you familiar with Burmese Vipassana meditation? Absolutely. I spent a lot of time with noting practices. In fact, most of the centers I went to in Malaysia were in the Burmese tradition, and I think I spent about a year in Malaysia, maybe. Did I do that much? Yeah, probably. So I spent a lot of time in those centers and enjoyed them a lot. I practice something different, but I think they have a very, if you want to do the enlightenment path of Theravadan Vipassana through Mahasi Sayadaw tradition, like this, it's a really, really good technique for going through those, because you get incredibly strong concentration and awareness of things happening. But as far as what we're trying to do here, actually let go of the sense of self, not necessarily. I think it's a really good technique for training the mind. I've spent thousands of hours doing that, those techniques, and they really make you very, very skilled at observing what's happening inside of you, to be aware of what's happening inside of you. So yeah. As well as Sunlun and Mogok approach. Not so familiar with those. I recognize the names. Mogok, I think, at least. Maybe not Mogok. Yeah, is this something you're practicing, John? There's so many different techniques, and I always say that what I teach is not a specific technique per se. It's more perspective, maybe a method, where you can use any technique you like, because I believe that all techniques give you something. They have different purposes, and they're good for different things, and all techniques can give you something. So it's really good to try different techniques and see which works for you. And it can also be that it changes. It might be that you begin with something like, oh, this is amazing. And when I really started meditating intensely, I did Goenka Vipassana, and I thought it was, wow, this is what it's all about. And then after now I'm kind of, oh, well, it's an extremely narrow-minded approach with a very strong interpretation through a classical Theravadan perspective to get the beliefs that they have there, and also very exclusive. It excludes all other traditions, even though they say they don't, kind of. So I highly recommend everyone to try. And like I said, it's not so much about what technique you do; it's more finding something that works for you. But then it's figuring out what you actually want to do with it. What are you after? Because there's so much talk of, I think someone asked me last time, can you actually get enlightened? Or I get this question often when people ask me, is there enlightenment? Are you enlightened? Have you seen anyone that is enlightened? And then I ask, well, what is enlightenment? And I can't remember exactly, but it's 40 or 50 different versions of enlightenment, what the word means. And no one agrees with anyone about it. Like, this is what it is, kind of. So there is no such thing as this is enlightenment, that's what it is. It depends on where you go and look for it, and then we'll have different explanations, which is why I don't use the word enlightenment. I think it has gotten so much attached to it. I like more the word liberation, because from the perspective of what we're doing here, where we talk about the sense of self, when you've experienced non-centricness, if you sit and you say, okay, I look at the things around me, and all of a sudden you see them freshly as in a new perspective, and there's this lightness. All of a sudden it's easier to breathe, and there's no pressure. It's like if you ever been scuba diving and you have a dry suit, you basically have a dry layer of skin, air around you, and that suit kind of squeezes you. It feels like it pushes onto you, and the deeper you go, it just like pushes on you, so you can feel, and it's like it's hard to move. Because and you have like these things here, so there's no water coming in. It's kind of, it's like this. And then when you take that off, it's like, so much mobility, so much freedom. They're so light. That's almost the difference, getting out of the water, taking off that suit. So liberation makes much more sense from what it feels like to experience the thing we're talking about. It also doesn't make any interpretations, because it doesn't say you get superpowers. You can see into other people's minds. You can see past life, future life. You can see other dimensions. You can have superpowers and jump. Like, there's all this nonsense, in my opinion, which comes from a cultural belief that was just prevalent in India. Like, no one was just a king. Everyone had god powers. Everyone was a monkey. A lion, and it could morph. There's all these things. So I think that just got blended in with what actually happened. So I think if you look at it from the perspective of liberation, then that's much more accurate as to what happens. Did you actually ask about that, or did I just go nuts and for no apparent reason? Let's see. Jack, Theravada is the most simple way of going through with what Siddhartha taught to the disciple. Well, that depends, because first of all, Theravada is, Jack said, Theravada is the oldest. It's kind of like the Catholic Church is the oldest version of Buddhism. But all the Theravadan texts, the oldest ones, are 400 years after the Buddha lived, which is why I say that we have absolutely no idea what the Buddha actually said. But they're like, it's old. And then you have others like Mahayana, which is a complete reinterpretation of what the text talked about. Let's see. The difference between coming to your senses and the just being aware approach seems very subtle. Presence and enhanced presence. So coming to your senses, that's actually, I've never spoken about it like that. Let me just see how you said. The difference between coming to your senses and just being aware. I think I would say the difference between being your senses and being aware of your senses. Because what actually happens when you're not experiencing a sense of self is that you are your senses. There is no distance. The way most of us experience the world is that there's this feeling of me, and then I'm viewing through the eye at this thing here, but there's a perspective. When you go through this and you experience reality as it is, meaning you are the senses, there's not the feeling of I'm here watching through the eyes. It's like I am the eyes watching. In the seeing is only the seen. In the hearing is only the heard. Hearing in the heard is only the I say that wrong. In the felt is only the felt. I'm not sure if I'm saying this correctly, but the point is that there is no distance. There is no separation. You are your senses. There is a clear sensation of being, meaning there is something happening, but there's no sense of identity with any one being. So there's no, because identity comes from this distance, this distortion, this feeling of I am here and I'm viewing this thing out there and you're threatening me. So from the perspective of that, we can say you cannot be threatened because you cannot feel threatened. That doesn't mean your physical body cannot be threatened. That doesn't mean someone couldn't hurt you physically or steal all your money. They can still do that. And then the perspective is, well, it's not my money. Well, it doesn't feel like my money, but I know that I have control over this pot of money here. I know that this is the only body that I have control over, this thing here. This is all that I can control for now. And what happens after, I have no idea. So yeah, I like that distinction. Coming to your senses or being aware. That's a good distinction. I will take that one with me. Is that something someone says or because I like it? John Doe, is stream entry available for lay people? Absolutely. Yeah, stream entry is, it's in Buddhism is talked, because for those of you who are not familiar with Theravada Buddhism, there's Sotapanna, Sakaragami, Anagami, and Arahant. And the first one is called stream entry. That's the, you jump in on the stream, and once you do, like you'll have these, I talked about them before, these cycles, jnanas that you go through where things can get kind of chaotic. And I think a lot of people who have mental issues have actually gone through these, and they think they're mental issues because it makes you feel really weird sometimes. There's a doctor who wrote a book about meditation and said that it's crazy that when I write out a medicine, I have to have a label and it's a warning text. Be careful when you do this, because if you do this, then there's side effects. And it's the same with intensive Vipassana meditation. There are side effects. I mean, yeah, it's going to change your life, and it's not all going to be for the better. And now I'm talking about when you do intensive investigation meditation, like we're doing now. We're just sitting for 20 minutes. That's so little that it's not really going to get into that. But it can move it along. And I also say that the meditation doesn't mean you go up and feel better like this. Things come up that you've been hiding that are difficult to look at, and you'll have to face those things. So absolutely, stream entry is available for lay people. Jack Crasher, stream entry, that is the first level of enlightenment in Theravada Buddhism. And I should point out that if you go to a lay person in Sri Lanka, where I was ordained, and you would say that it's possible to get stream entry, they were like, no, you're insane. No one can, like most monks in Sri Lanka believes no one can get enlightened any level at all. Whereas in this Burmese tradition, which John is talking about, it's quite common, and it's not really a remarkable thing. It could take a few months, maybe, of intensive meditation. Intensive meditation means like plus 10 hours to 15 hours per day. And really strict practice routines. So, yeah, and a layperson could do that, for sure. Jack, enlightenment is not so spectacular that people are trying to make it to be. Well, that's the thing, like why I don't say enlightenment, because Sotapanna, the first stage of enlightenment in Theravada tradition, it's completely unspectacular. It changes your perspective. It's kind of like you were watching like this, and then all of a sudden it's a little bit like that. This perspective I said, where I feel like I'm watching here, that is changed. So you no longer feel the same distance. For most people, they wouldn't feel the distance. It is there. And I think a lot of the people who are on YouTube talking about how they're awakened and they don't exist, they're just deluded because they feel I have no sense of self, but they do, because they're distorting. They're still having this pressure. It's just that you don't feel the perspective as clearly. So it feels like that, but that's kind of, they're just jumping to conclusion. There's much more to go through, absolutely. And that, I agree with you, Jack, that is not as spectacular as people make it out to be. Now, you can actually continue and really let go of the sense of self, and that is a spectacular experience, but there's not the feeling of, in the way that we're used to. It's more like the feeling of being a child, waking up with what I call happy feet and like butterflies in your stomach, and you're like, oh, this is such an amazing day, and it's sunshine and sunlight and barefoot feet on grass and just hearing birds and summer and ocean and just sand and sun cream. And like, for me, this is like the sense that make me feel like this is what it feels like, and that is a spectacular experience. It is my belief that if you keep taking away those things, looking at all these distortions, letting go, eventually there should be a point where everything collapses and you are liberated. There is no longer a sense of self. It is completely gone, which is what they teach in Theravada Buddhism, meaning that you can actually get to a point where the self disappears. And if you would believe in reincarnation or rebirth, then it makes sense. There is nothing that is being reborn. What the Hindus say about Atman, they say the finest particle that keeps being reborn, that is now gone. And from my perspective, having experienced what I experienced, it makes a lot of sense to say what the Buddha then said, that no, you're no longer being reincarnated. If you believe in reincarnation. If you don't, then that doesn't say that there is reincarnation or rebirth. It just, there is nothing that would be feeling like it's reborn. And I also have to point out that for me, this is not a permanent state. It comes and it goes and it stays, and all the things that would affect me a lot before simply don't affect me in the same way anymore. Let's see. Esperanza. Hey Tim, nice to see you. John Doe, I've been practicing the Mahasi Vipassana. Glad to hear that's your practice. Yeah, well, it was. I haven't practiced that for ages, but when I started out, I started Goenka, then Mahasi, and then now I'm doing my own thing. Jack, I see. Stephen, I believe the Buddha introduced Vipassana. Well, the Buddhist meditation is called Vipassana. It's translated into insight meditation. It's just that it's become famous in the West by S.N. Goenka, who has the Vipassana centers. So now people, if you say Vipassana, people think that is S.N. Goenka meditation. But it's just that they took the name Vipassana, which is insight meditation. But I think it's Pali, or is it Sanskrit? Maybe Jack knows, I'm not sure. So it's not that... that's like his S.N. Goenka's meditation. That is the name of what that's called. Jack, Buddha was born, aged, and died. So if anyone is searching for something more in the meditation, he's still looking for something to fill the void itself. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the void in himself that disappears. There's nothing to fill anymore. We feel a void. That's me. If you've seen my video about why I became a Buddhist monk, I keep talking about like, what am I supposed to do with this feeling? I need to do something to find my life purpose, to get somewhere, to do something. That is kind of gone. I like, if I would die today and I haven't fulfilled my goals, I would be okay. Obviously, I wouldn't want to die, but there is not this feeling of, I need to do this before I die. This is so important. I'm just really happy that I'm here and doing what I'm doing right now, and then I'll be happy doing what I'm doing later. Stephen, don't we all need a sense of self to function in the world? No, we don't. It might seem like that as long as you have a sense of self, and you shouldn't deny that, because if you do, that's when you start having problems. But if you look at that sense of self, then gradually that will disappear, and all of a sudden, it happens when we grow old. When you're younger, especially when you're like a teenager and this really starts coagulating into like you, then you have this strong sense of this is me, and you go patriotism, and I fight against the world, and good, bad, evil, dumb, like you have all these things you're punching against. But as you grow older, most people, not everyone, actually, if you look what's happening around the world right now, a lot of people who are old and in power absolutely have not done this. But for most people, when they grow older, they let go. And it's okay that my hair doesn't look so good. I don't need to look cool towards everything or everyone and have this image of myself that everyone loves, or be so cool and good at the things and like be amazing at that thing. And it matters so much what you think about me. all of those things just kind of, they don't matter anymore, because you grow older and you're accepting I am going to die. And you see your children grow up and you've seen them go from babies to big, and you get a different perspective. Like, things don't have to be the way you want them to be for you to be happy. So you're basically, by aging, letting go of the sense of self. I believe if we would have an infinite lifetime, meaning we would just grow older and older, many people would do this automatically. They would just let go of the sense of self. There would probably also be some people who just completely fell into a dark hole with a sense of self and got like so much self that they became really toxic people. You don't have to become 200 years old to do that, apparently. Stratus, thank you, Martin, for your explanation. I was meaning the difference between the great technique you employ here, using your 5 senses and just observing your thought approach. Yeah, like I said, I really like how you mentioned that. I never thought about it like that, but and it's not that I have a specific. I used to not even teach a technique, because the technique is not important, in my opinion. You can use any technique that you feel comfortable with, but if you have just a little bit understanding of what's happening and seeing what you're doing with your sense of self, then any technique can become more efficient. John Doe, does nirvana mean annihilation? Does someone reach that point no longer exist? Does nirvana mean annihilation? Does someone reach that point no longer exist? So, yeah, that is basically what I'm saying. When you feel when you have a non-centric experience, when you're not feeling like you are there, that is cessation of the sense of having a sense of self. There's a few words. There's nirodha, which means that you actually cease experiencing. That's a different thing that happens in the cycles. But now we're getting into technicalities that just will confuse people. So yes, if nirvana means cessation of the sense of self, if that's what you're talking about, then yes. But I also have to point out that I have not experienced a state where that is permanent. I have experienced a very strong sense of that happening, and that is evolving. So it started being, whoa, this is incredible. The world without me is so beautiful and so clear. And that goes to softer until it's just, there is no whoa feeling anymore, because the wow feeling is a sense of self that you don't feel as a sense of self going, wow. After a while, when you've had hundreds or thousands of these experiences, then it's more, you are your senses. There is no one reflecting on how this is incredible. It's just very enjoyable to be alive, and there's no one who's enjoying it in that way. John Doe, nirvana seems like a mystery. Yeah, and it's the same thing with nirvana as enlightenment. And nirvana has kind of become so much more than just what it probably meant in the beginning. And no one really knows what they meant, because it's so old. We're talking about dead languages that we're trying to interpret. Stephen, I feel like everyone is in the school of hard knocks until we decide we had enough. Yeah, a little bit like that. I agree. Nice discussions, by the way. I really enjoy that. It's funny how when people bring up things, just go in certain directions. There's something that might be a bit too complicated, and I don't mean that you're not advanced enough. I just mean that it's too much detail, that it might confuse some people. So if you find this just completely went over your head, then just don't worry about it. This is not important, and this is one of the reasons I don't talk so much about Buddhist scriptures or about maps and paths and things that happen, because ultimately they're not really important. It can be nice to know about, and it can be nice to hear certain things and get a different perspective on things. But ultimately, it's the only thing that's important is that you're aware of what you're experiencing. Coming to your senses versus being aware of your senses. Yeah, I like that, because you have to come to your senses. Actually, so you first are aware of your senses. That's most meditations, especially Vipassana. You are aware of your senses. But then you come to your senses, meaning that you come to your senses and like, oh, the world is around me now. And the final goal will be to become your senses. That would be like a 3-step process. Nadia, I'm very confused. Yeah, I'm sorry, Nadia. I was, like I said, this is, I can really get into these kind of things because I find it really fun and interesting. But I also know that it's quite confusing. And if you haven't experienced the things, they might not make sense. But just listening to some of the things can help with feeling that feeling, which is why I take away all those things, because they're not important. But this feeling of not having a center point, that is very important to feel, because it shows you that there is a different way of experiencing reality that is so much, clearly so much better than the way 99.9999999% of people experience the world. It's just so much better, and I can clearly say that. It's when you see the two side by side, it's like, well, this is just ridiculous in comparison to not existing and experiencing the world as it is. Have you thought of using Twitch? No, I think that's mostly for games, right? But they do other stuff there as well. I know that you can stream to many different places. There's so many things I want to do, but it's just time limit. And like I said, right now, I have so much on my plate that I don't know how to deal with it. So I'm really sorry that everything is kind of a little bit delayed. But yeah, I'm working on it. Tim, Esperanza, I love the advanced talk. Love listening to you guys and girls who are a lot more knowledgeable than me. Yeah, it's nice to just hear different perspectives. Do you know, is it true that there are meditators that sit for 10 hours straight, not moving at all? I have never seen anyone do that, but I'm sure you could. I think the longest I ever sat was 2.5 hours or something, but it makes no sense. It's just kind of, just creates sense of self. I should sit for 10 hours. It's not important, really. It doesn't make you a better meditator. I've heard of people who sit like 4 or 5 hours, but it's kind of, that doesn't mean you're better. It's just, it means nothing. It really doesn't. There is a natural cycle when you sit down that you go through, and when that cycle is done, it is very, it's more efficient to get up and move, which is why if you go to these Burmese centers, which John Doe is talking about, you sit for an hour, you walk for an hour. You sit for an hour, you walk for an hour. You're allowed to sit a little bit longer if you want to, but the idea is you sit, walk, because that just works better than sitting for a long time. Hey, Frozen. Okay, so it's getting late. We're having too many fun discussions. We'll do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method a little bit quicker today, because we have a new thing. We're trying to finish at 9 o'clock. Today was just one of those days where it's extra fun talks. And then it carried on a bit longer. So for those of you who are new, we sit down and we chat a little bit like this first, and then we do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, which is a way of coming to our senses. Coming to our senses. Coming back to our senses. I have to work on that one. I like that one. Stratus, yeah. After that we have, today is Thursday, so there's no guided meditation. We just sit together for 20 minutes, and then you're free. Hoppolek, as you say in Sweden. So the exercise is that we say out aloud 5 things we can see, 4 things we can feel, 3 things that we can hear, 2 things we can smell, and 1 thing that we can taste. And the whole idea is to do that without a relationship to the things we're seeing, as if though you walked into imagine actually if you're doing that, if you're sitting in the room you're sitting now, just imagine that you're on vacation, and this is your hotel room, or I don't know where you are. Maybe it's the lobby if you're sitting somewhere public. And you open your eyes and you look around, and I want you to tell me 5 things out aloud that you can see. And when you look at them, you really try to describe them as they are. So I can see this is a mystery box. I'm at a hotel room right now, and I have no idea what's in this box. And when I don't know what's in this box, I say, oh, look at this. This is an interest figure here. And I can see the light, the shadows. In other words, it becomes just aware of the qualities that you see with your eyes, instead of, oh, I know what this is. This is a case for my diagonal for my telescope, and it's by William Optics. I know that the actual diagonal is sold, and I have another one in here, but it's not in here right now. That would be me having a relationship to it, feeling and knowing what this is, which is why when I walk by this every day, I normally just, oh, it's just there. But now we're in our hotel rooms on our vacation, so now we see it, something different. Interesting box. Maybe there's some candy in here, is what my kids would think if we were in a hotel room. I see a plant. Same thing here. It's a hotel room. I've never seen that plant before. That's a very interesting plant. I see a window. It's a strange shape. The window in my My office doesn't look like that. And I see a pair of headphones. Lots of reflections and shadows, and really nice. And I see myself on the TV screen, the computer screen. That was 5 things that I could see. Next, we have 4 things that we can feel. So right now I can feel there's an itch right here. It's my vacation itch. It's my itch in my hotel room. It's itching here. That's probably like the sand from when I was on the beach. Or the sunburn. And I can feel that instead of feeling like, oh, I want to get away from it, I'll just go, oh, this is nice. This means that I've been out in the sun. I get a bit of, oh, I accidentally just brushed it. And I intended to. And now I can feel what it feels like to brush it. Same thing, just feeling the hair on your arms. Maybe you don't have hair on your arms. Well, actually, I think most people do. If you feel that you've done that so many times, felt this. So most of the time we just go like this, and we don't feel that. But imagine if it's your vacation arm. That might be strange. Imagine if it's a new lover you have, a new partner, and you feel, if you're married, then like obviously it's your partner. And then you feel the hair on the arm, and like, wow, that's so interesting. I never felt this hair before. And that's theirs. Huh. Actually, the problem with that is that you'll have a feeling towards it, but just feeling something is new. Next, we feel, I like drinking tea. I can feel the tea running down my throat. That is an interesting experience. I think that was 4 things. I'm not sure. Let's say it was. Next we do 3 things that we can hear. I hear, so this is why seasons are so nice in Sweden, because you automatically get this feeling of being somewhere new. Right now I hear a bird singing, and for me this is spring sounds. This is what spring sounds like. Just hearing that, I can almost smell the fresh air that comes from a little bit coldness in the evening when it's not summer yet, but it's spring, and there's like this damp, cold air. It's very fresh, but it's also a little bit cold. My father was a famous ornithologist and artist, and he would have known exactly what bird that was. And if he knew that I'm not 100% sure, he would be highly disappointed in me, which I am okay with. I hear my feet making sounds on the carpet here. And I can hear our neighbors making some noises over there. Those are 3 things that I could hear. Next we take 2 things that we can smell. Now I have a bit of a cold, or allergy maybe it is actually. But I can smell licorice because I'm drinking licorice tea. So there's a smell of licorice in the air. Next I can smell spring. There's a smell of spring in the air. There's 2 things that I could smell. Finally we have 1 thing that we can taste. There's a licorice flavor, but behind that there's a smooth flavor. I don't actually know what that is. Almost like mayonnaise or something. Not mayonnaise, but like a soft flavor. Thank you. That was a very, very nice sitting. You're welcome to keep on sitting, to have a cup of tea. I am going to sign off and have some sleep. I urge you to try this thing that we were talking about before, when we're feeling as if though we're on vacation, because that really is the perspective that we're having, this sense of new, fresh. Think of a child, how when they run to the playground, it's every time is the first time they're there. If a child goes into a room and you've changed something, they see it immediately. They'll notice that little candy bar wrapper that's lying there that they didn't get, because they notice everything. So try to see the world as a child, this freshness, this as if though we're on vacation. Thank you, and I will see everyone back on Monday. Have a great weekend.